Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Grinning Gamer. I'm your host, Alice, and today we'll be taking a peek inside a little game called Godsforge. Designed by Brendan Stern and published by Atlas Games, this little box has earned itself a big place in my heart, and today I'll show you exactly why. Godsforge is a simple, fast-paced card game for 2 to 4 players, centered around building your forces across a series of quick rounds to attack your opponents and mitigate damage. In this game, you play as wizards, fighting for control of the Godsforge, the last source of the godlike power of Ethereum, and the only place where you can weave this energy into the powerful creations and spells you seek to command. To do so, you spend elements, represented by a set of dice, and Veilstones, a precious resource earned through certain card effects, to summon creatures to your field, or cast temporary but incredibly powerful spells. Now, one of the things I absolutely love about Godsforge is how breathtakingly simple it is. All of the basic rules fit neatly onto a little card that stays face up in front of you throughout the entire game, and any potential rules conflicts can be quickly solved by flipping through the thin but detailed manual. When I first picked up this game, 2 rounds of play was all we needed for even my least game-oriented friends to quickly memorize the rules, allowing us to jump right in with barely a 2-minute rules explanation. After that, rounds proceeded quickly, about 10 or 15 minutes, after which we were ready to jump right into the next one. Plus, all of the basic elements are small and easily bagged, which means they can be fit into a pocket or a purse and taken anywhere with you. You could pull them out at a bar or take them to a friend's house for a quick lightning round. But before I get too far into praise for this game, let's talk about mechanics. In the center of the table, you have the game board, not strictly necessary for play, but a good tool for organization. In its center, 2 clearly designated slots hold the Fate deck, the stack of cards from which all players will be drawing, and the luxuriously golden Veilstones, a resource that everyone will soon be scrambling for to enhance their plays. Around the rim, a track of numbers runs in a circle from 1 to 30, meant to designate health, along with an easy reference for starting health depending on your number of players. Additionally, each player receives a rules reference card and 4 colored dice with a single black die placed on the game board, which we'll come to later. To start, each player draws 4 cards from the central deck, filling out the typical hand size, and the game begins. Turns consist of 4 phases, and to the benefit of the speed of this game, all players take their turns at the same time. The first phase is upkeep, allowing all players to first look through their hands and discard up to 2 cards that they don't like, drawing more until their hand size is refreshed. Certain creations will also grant players small boons, like earning an extra Veilstone during this phase. These effects will be indicated on your creations with an easily referenced symbol next to the actual effect. Once players have finished their upkeep phase, they move on to the forge roll, taking their 4 dice and rolling them to see what elements are at their disposal. Now, this is where things get a little strategic. Looking at your hand, your creations and spells will have a list of values on their left side, or indicators such as 3 of a kind, or perhaps a Veilstone symbol. This is the cost you have to spend to activate the card, and it must be done using the dice you rolled. But what if you end up with useless junk? Not to worry, the forge roll gives you a little flexibility with your actions. Firstly, you get 2 rerolls of a single die each, allowing you to turn useless numbers into slightly more usable ones. Still not satisfied with the results? You can spend Veilstones at a rate of 1 to 1 to shift a die value up or down, so long as you don't change it to a 1. Why not? Simple. Ones, or Ethereum as the game calls them, are the best possible value to roll, as they can substitute for any other number available on the dice. They can even become a 6, equally as sought after, because every unspent 6 earns you a Veilstone, which can be spent immediately during your forge roll or put into your pool at the end of the phase for later. Still not flexible enough for you? How about channeling elements, which allows you to take 2 or more dice and combine them for a better value? And if you still don't have any moves you want to take, you can instead pass your casting to take 4 Veilstones in addition to any that you would earn from your dice. With all this in mind, players take their time to pick a single creation or spell from their hand and place it face down in front of them. To avoid any confusion, my friends and I often put the dice and veilstones we plan to spend on top of the card so it can be quickly referenced. Then, players move to the reveal phase. This third phase is incredibly simple, as players flip their cards face up, putting them into play. During this phase, any cards with reveal effects, indicated by an eye symbol, and effect directly beneath the name, will occur, but only on the turn the card is first played. This is also the time where players will take their extra veilstones that they channeled with leftover 6s or 1s and put them into their supply. Certain spell cards as well, like this Drain Life spell, will have Empower effects listed that allow you to gain bonuses based on how many veilstones you spend. Anyone wishing to use these empowerments should spend the appropriate veilstones now, and then all players move to the most interesting phase, Attack. Now this is where things get spicy. The ultimate goal of Godsforge is not to have the most creations or to gather the most veilstones, no. The winner will only ever be the last man standing, or possibly the wizard who is least dead at the end of all the battles. For the sake of scoring, attacks happen simultaneously, and will even occur if a creation would be destroyed, sacrificed, or a wizard killed during this phase. To make things easy, you will only ever be attacking to your left and defending to your right, which means the only players you need concern yourself with are the ones sitting directly next to you. To begin, tally up all of the values backed in red to determine the damage you'll be inflicting. Then, add together all the values backed in blue to determine how much damage you can negate. And then, if necessary, spend Veilstones to activate any additional empowerments on your creations, adding up the requisite attack, healing, or defense and adjusting accordingly. Once all damage is tallied, Veilstones spent, and health adjusted, if everyone has survived, great! Discard any spells, leave creations face up, rinse, and repeat, starting back from the upkeep phase. If a player has died, even better. The wizard that dealt the final blow takes 3 Veilstones from the center. But be careful. After the first player dies, all remaining players take 7 extra damage every round after that, making the lightning-fast game even faster. And that really covers just about everything in the rules pamphlet, aside from a few minor discrepancies that, as I mentioned before, can be resolved in seconds with a quick glance through the manual. Sound like a lot? Well, honestly, it really isn't. The rules can be just as easily explained by tossing players a reference card, a starting hand, and playing a quick practice round, making it perfect for players looking for something light and fun. So without further ado, why don't we break down exactly what makes this game one of the most played on my shelf. To begin, from the first glance at this box's cover, the art reels you in, the gold-trimmed lettering boldly proclaiming the name of the game, with an absolutely gorgeous and stylized illustration behind it that really drives home the love that the author put into this project. This beautiful theme continues through the artfully laid out rules reference, and of course onto the cards themselves, which, in my opinion, are beautiful enough to deserve to be framed. Even the spells, which are simple and clean, are backed with geometric golden line art, harkening back to the mystical depictions of spell circles and alchemical symbols. And then there's the Veilstones, which, although they're nothing more than plastic, truly feel luxurious and treasure-like with their golden sheen. Every detail of this design is gorgeously rendered in an artistic style that could only possibly be improved by, perhaps, gold foil on spells or card backs that honestly I would pay extra for. So, Brennan Stern and Diego Rodriguez, if you're listening, hats off to you, friends, for this excellent design. And like, if you could just email me, if maybe we could get a special shiny edition, or no? Okay, well, anyway. Moving on, I've praised this game for its speed and its simplicity, which honestly I can't emphasize enough. Anytime I have a friend who doesn't want to sit through a 2 or 3 hour complicated game, you can bet that Godsforge lands on my table. Yet the game still manages to maintain a certain level of complexity, owing to the unique effects that every card brings to your field. The rules reference is kept so perfectly simple because every single card explains its effects directly on the face, all without obscuring the beautiful artwork. And there are some amazing effects in this game. Remember that black die we talked about earlier? This Scepter of Fortune, one of the best cards in the game, gives you a single extra die on every forge roll as long as you control it. A powerful effect that you can guarantee every player will want on their field. Or maybe you have the Volcanic Sphinx, or even 2 to increase your hand size up to 5 or 6 and unleash powerful attacks on your opponents for every spell you play. Jade Clover, which lets you shift a die up or down by 1 or 2 every forge roll. And nothing could possibly beat the horror on your friends' faces when you finally manage to play Dimension Door and put 2 cards onto your field that turn for free. Overall, nothing could possibly diminish my love for this game. But beneath its pristine surface, there are perhaps 1 or 2 minor blemishes on an otherwise perfect game. Let's start with perhaps the most minor of them all, the flavor of this game. While plenty of board games will have a rich theme that immerses you in a world or the characters that you're playing, the theme of Godsforge is as thin as its booklet. And true, for a game that's easy and breezy, perhaps the theme isn't necessary at all. But the real disappointment lies in the fact that clearly there was a lot of love put into this game, and a real effort made to wrap a theme around this beautiful set of cards. And then to hide that theme in a single paragraph in the booklet that players will barely even glance over is almost a sin. And how about this? Remember those elements I mentioned during the forge rolls? Well, they all have names. 2 is fire, 3 is air, 4 is water, 5 is earth, and we even have Feywood, Bloodstone, Mithril, Light, Shadow, Crystal, and Godstones for the more complicated costs. But as easily as I've forgotten to include them in earlier descriptions of the dice, you'll likely forget these names too, and new players may never hear them at all. And then there's the playtesting. All those lovely, unique effects on the cards, you'll quickly find that they aren't really balanced. In fact, not even close. On the one hand, you have cards like Metallic Dragon with a cost of 11 plus 2 odd dice and a Veilstone, all for 6 attack, and you have to sacrifice it for its defense. And then on the other hand, you have cards like Crystal Phoenix for a simple 3 in a row, arguably one of the most overpowered cards in the game because not only can it not be destroyed through any method, its damage is also completely unblockable, so you have to put into play healing cards just to deal with it. And then there's Leviathan. I mean, honestly, I've just considered taking this one out of the deck entirely. 8 attack, sure, but you have to pay 3 Veilstones or sacrifice a creation every round just to keep it in play? I've literally never seen a player put this on their field. And similarly, you'll find you fall quickly into metas, scrambling through the deck and discarding cards you never or rarely use to try and find the same 5 or 6 creations that are truly powerful. Occasionally, I'll find myself discarding 2 cards at the start of every turn, just hoping that I can get my hands on the Scepter or the Heart of the Forest, because I know if I do, I'm almost guaranteed to win, so long as my luck holds out. And yes, the cards are that easy to memorize, which is excellent when you want to be able to glance across the table after 1 or 2 games and recognize what your opponent has in front of them, but it just as easily leads to a bit of sameness. After 10 games or so, you've seen all the game has to offer, and you're left wondering if there could be just a little bit more. Maybe an expansion, or even a little pack of cards you could buy, and there just isn't. So now we come to the ultimate question. Are any of these flaws enough to keep this box on store shelves instead of on yours? And the answer? Absolutely not. At only $30 or even $25, depending on your store, this game is an easy buy. And it's so worth it to have a game that you can just whip off your shelf, set up in seconds, and play with friends who may not be ready for any of your larger titles. If it were up to me, this game would be an instant classic, on gamers' shelves everywhere, right next to the obligatory Catan or Monopoly or Risk. It's just so simple and fun that it even makes a good family game. In fact, my only real complaint with it is that it's really desperately in need of an expansion. You can bet the moment that a new pack of cards or a new box hits the shelves, I'll be there the next day to pick it up. So take note, Brendan Stern, and get to work. I'll be waiting. Well, I think it's safe to say we here at the Grinning Gamer wholeheartedly recommend this game. But do you recommend us? For this page to grow, we need followers, and the best way to get those is from word of mouth from viewers like yourselves. So make sure to share this page with friends, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you'd like to give a little more direct support, head over to patreon.com/thegrinninggamer. I've just released my first exclusive D&D 5e homebrew, the Etheric Transcriptor, available to everyone at the Citizen tier and above. A big thank you to Robin for your unending support and for being my first Noble tier subscriber. I hope I'm making you proud. Stay tuned, everyone. There's more coming very soon, but until then, keep grinning, gamers.